So moving on to the next question, I think this is about. I think it leans more on this Sufi idea of longing from the Sufi poet Rumi. So because as we already mentioned, in many cultures, different cultures really, where this instrument is found, it's always said to be connected to spirituality and longing in a religious sense. So do you think this depth comes this spiritual depth, I would call it, comes from the sound of the instrument or just the story that surrounds it? What do you think?
Interesting. Thank you, Kosi. Um, you know what? One thing I believe is that sometimes some things. Okay, let me give an example. So I was listening to something today, early this morning, and it was talking about a guy that got um, apologies, is a biblical story. He got some coins, some silver coins from his mom, and then he turned it to a god. And then he got a priest, and then was taking care of the priest. And then he turned that thing to a god in his house. And then some Danites, some people from Dan, they came. They saw the priest that the guy had employed, and they really liked, okay, there's a household god there. So they took that god after they had done everything they wanted, and they took the priest. And that god became the god of a whole tribe. One man took coins and converted it to a god, that's a god, small g. And then and then a whole tribe came, took that god, took the priest, and then turned it to a whole religion for them until the exile of the Israelites. That thing was still a god that they worshipped. So what I'm saying, why I brought that story is that um, sometimes things become what we call them. Sometimes things become what we call them. Because if there's a consistent belief that this instrument can unite me with a divine being for me to achieve perfection, it's something I have faith in. Gradually, it will begin to work for me, whether I like it or not. And then you start passing it down from one generation to another. And then it becomes real. So I feel the sound, it's possible that the sound has that power because of what it has been called to be, and it has become that. It's just like I like with it. If when we're talking about the Yoruba drums, if you remember, there's this particular drum bata that is used only for Shango. And okay, it was myself and Emmanuel. We were talking about Isheshe with one professor, and he talked about that this bata drum, and truly, you don't see that drum. You've seen other talking drums, other didundu ensemble in Fuji. You've seen it in Christendom now being introduced to praise and worship and all that. But that particular bata drum is very rare to see it being used aside Shogo worship. So things become what we believe it is. That's what I'm saying in essence. So I feel that is the knowledge or the belief that has been passed on from generation to generation that's now evolved to become what it is now in terms of being able to inspire or um, to be able to enable them to go into trance. So that's one part of it. And then another thing might also be that there's a way that you play it. You know, when you play something, I don't know, hypnotism. I don't know if you've read about hypnotism before. Growing up, there's this thing that they used to show us in cartoons then, that somebody will put a coin and then you move your eyes left, right in a pendulum form. And after a while, your eyes will start turning and you become hypnotized. So also there might be another way that you play that the ney flute that actually helps hypnotism, that helps people to be hypnotized. And then if you are able to play on that note consistently in a cyclic manner, it can actually take you into that trance form, because it hypnotizes and helps you to move into that realm that you want to move to. So that could also be it, in terms of the notes, the particular notes that that the flute is being played for it to. Because also, if you watch some of these Arabian cartoons, like I think Aladdin, Disney cartoon has a bit of flavor of that. You see the flute, it's used in a joyous ceremony, um, not necessarily a Sufi or a Turkish um, religion, but used in a celebratory form. So what do you now say to that? I feel that is the belief system that's engineered it. And then secondly, I feel also that there's a particular note that you play in a cyclic manner that takes on, that helps you to get hypnotized and move into that paranormal um, state that helps you to get into that form. So that's what I'll say to you. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful one. And I think I agree with that phrase that things become what we call them. Personally, I think it's a little bit of both. I think they feed into each other. If you look at it from the window of, you know, I think the stories around the May, among the Yusufi people kind of changes your perception of how you perceive the instrument, and coupled with the setting of where it's being played. So we know the sound is soothing, but then the story that you've heard about the power of this instrument from people, or the elite in that particular religion or ritual, kind of changes your perception, conditions your mind to have this feeling that this is going to do this to me. And so that's why I feel like they both feed into each other. And your thoughts are very, very valid, and quite interesting. I don't know if Emmanuel has anything to add to what has been said.
No, not really. I mean, I know touched on all the points that add up to giving this thing the influence and effect that it has. And this is same thing we saw in Gnawa music. First of all, it has to come from, like you said, your belief and willingness to be hypnotized or to experience this, your crave to experience that. And then when this music is played repeatedly, the same note, the same rhythm over and over and over and over again, and you super focus on that rhythm, you can just transcend. And I think if any musical instrument can make anyone do that, all these fluty instruments is really one that can really help people transcend, because of how the notes are very simple and it's easy to focus on, and the sound signature is distinct from really distinct from everything else around you. And if you're already in the mood and then you focus on that singular string, feeling or string looking notes or instrumentation, you can easily just transcend. And you depending on how you're spiritually inclined, you might want to interpret that as hypnosis, or you might want to interpret it as having encountered the supernatural or having seen God. So
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Emmanuel. So before we conclude, I think Moyo dropped a question before she went off. It says, "Do we have modern adaptation of the use of the ney in very fast tempo music?" My observation is that it is more in use for slow spiritual ceremonies, like the krake, which is also used in spiritual exercises. Its tempo increases over time from slow to upbeat or fast. Well, to be honest, personally, the first time I heard the sound of the Ney instrument was from Olamide's Ikigai EP. You might not have noticed, but it's featured in Hello Habibi by Olamide. I think the album was earlier this year or late last year, Ikigai. So when you listen to that, I think that's like the most modern application of this instrument that I've seen. I've also seen the trio song band uh, incorporating it in some kind of jazzy Arab jazz kind of setting, because it has, you see the ney, you see the canon, you also see some Arabic instruments also coupled with the likes of the sax and the likes, and they even have a singer also. That's the first time I'm actually seeing somebody singing over the ney. But yeah, that these two typical examples. Maybe the one from Trio Song and not is not actually fast paced, but I think Olamide's Hello Habibi is fast paced. I think so. So that's like modern adaptations of these instruments. Let's hear your thoughts, Emmanuel.
Yeah, and from the way you're describing it, you've looked at it from the perspective of a Nigerian, but I'm sure if you looked at it from the perspective of someone from Egypt or an Egyptian or maybe from Turkey, you would find definitely find more variety in these adaptations. So I wouldn't limit the adaptations to just what you've described, but I think we will need to do more research to see how, because this instrument is like central to the Arabians and Egyptians as well. I'm sure in Rai and the Rai raps, people may have experimented that we may not be aware.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think I came across another sound. Just doing a write up on Baladimi music. It's like the belly dance music from Egypt. I figured that how the belly dance music sounds like someone. I think Afronom incorporated it with house. So that was like a very interesting mix, really. And I think I came across another composition that had a fast-paced ney flute in someone like an Afro house setting, because I think the North African musicians and composers and producers really are leaning are starting to make a lot of house sort of music, just having traditional elements, core traditional Arabic elements incorporated into house music, and it's such an interesting experience, really, from the one from Afronom and this one I came across. I've forgotten the name of the composer that had Ney in fast-paced house music. So I think, yeah, a lot of North African or Middle Eastern artists are really taking that bold step of incorporating this traditional instruments in modern genres, really. And I'm sure that there must have been someone that done on it in Rai, like you mentioned. So yeah, I completely agree with you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution, Ikechukwu, Emmanuel, Anu, to the conversation so far. I don't know if anyone has any final thoughts before we close the session.
Okay. Just wanted to quickly add the aspect of the the different sound that Nene makes in terms of, some people call it register. When you blow a flute, sometimes you blow low, high, they call it register. For people that blow flutes, they call it register. So I just wanted us to touch a bit on it in terms of the ney has like three type of register that it makes in terms of tone. One is called the BAM, which is the low tone. We have the ZIR, that's ZIR, which is the middle register, and we have the Gesh, which is the I. In addition to that, we also have so the low register actually produces something that is deep, quite deep and contemplative in terms of that's the sound. Maybe makes you reflective. It's not danceable. And then you also now have the Z, as I said, the middle register. The Gesh is now, when something is high. So that one is now more for dramatic experiences. And then you also have the very low, which is called the chord. And then that's the KORD. And then you have the UJ. That's OUJE, which is the very high register. So this register actually helps them to create depth and then also complexity to the music. Just like the djembe, the djembe has three parts: the slap, the tone, and the bass. So depending on how you play it, it has depending on where you slap, that produces the tone or that does the bass. And that's how also the ney flute also has. It has these different registers, and there are about 5 of it. Just to quickly recap again, we have the BAM, which is BAM, which is the low register, and then we have the ZER, the middle register, more of the warm sound, more of the comforting one, and then you have the Gesh, the high sound, the high register, which is more of dramatic, piercing in sound. And we have the very low, which is the chord, and then we have the very high, which is the UJ, which is OUJE. Just wanted to add that to what we've talked about in the name. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anu, for that delicate piece of information. We appreciate the effort and the time to come and talk to us about this instrument. Same goes to Emmanuel and Ikechukwu. It was an interesting conversation from my end, and I'm looking forward to the next instrument that will be touching from Africa. With that, thank you to our listeners for tuning in on today's session of the African Music Live Instrument Discussion. We are looking forward to hearing your thoughts and seeing your comments on some of the questions and contributions that have been made on the conversation. And please do not forget that this episode was brought to you by the African Music Library. Subscribe to our podcast on Just Play Music and follow us on our social media at AML by Just Play. Thank you for tuning in.